Hi everyone, this is William from the Headphone Experience. I'm here tonight with my best Dacs and best DAC amp combos of the year for 2023. And I did want to explain that I did include some DAC amp combos in my best headphone amp video. And some of those were in that and some are going to be mentioned in this. And basically the way I see it, and I'm sure there's exceptions, but most DAC amp combos or amp DAC combos are going to either have a very good DAC with a built-in headphone amp or a very good headphone amp that has a built-in DAC. And the ones that lean more towards the DAC are included in this video, and the ones that lean more towards the amp were included in the other video. Some are included in both because they had both good amps and DACs, but in most cases, especially at the lower prices, you usually get, the manufacturer usually concentrates more on one, either the amp or DAC, and then kind of throws the other in as a convenience. So anyway, there are some amp DACs included in this, and then at the end of this, my awards, I also included awards for amp DAC combinations specifically. So anyway, and then I did want to mention that my year-end awards, my picks for the best equipment, are only things that I've reviewed. I don't go by what other people have reviewed or what other people have recommended, so I'm not saying that these are necessarily the best you can get or the best you can buy. I'm just saying these are my favorites of what I've reviewed so far. And some of these I reviewed this year, others I reviewed last year, a few maybe even a couple years ago. But I'm mentioning them because they still stand out as some of my favorites. So anyway, I'll get to it. My recommendations, I'm going to start with under $100. And my first pick is the FiiO Zen Air DAC, and that sells for $99. And basically what that is a lowered priced version of the FiiO Zen DAC. And I did review the Zen DAC. I reviewed the original version, which sold for $129. The current version, the Zen DAC 2, sells for $199. Well, what the Zen Air DAC is basically a lower priced version that, number one, it only includes single-ended output, it's not balanced, and number two, the case and the enclosure is mostly plastic instead of metal. But it does sound really good. It sounds very similar to the Zen DAC at half the price. So that's my top recommendation, under $100. And then also, I think I have it right here in the background, I'm going to give an honorable mention to the Zen Uno, which is basically a smaller, more compact version of the Zen Air DAC. This sells for $79, and the sound is very, very close. This sounds really good. My only issue with this is because it's so small. I mean, just the weight of a headphone cable will kind of drag it around. It weighs only a few ounces, but this thing does sound surprisingly good. And if you're using the 3.5 millimeter output of your laptop, your desktop, your tablet, something like that, you're going to get a huge improvement in sound using this instead, using USB output from your computer or iPad or whatever into this, and then using the DAC and amp built into this. And $79, a really, really good sound. I'm going to jump up to the next category, $101 to $250, and my top recommendation is a DAC that I haven't even done my full review on yet. I did do my first impressions, and I've used it quite a bit, and in fact, right now, or last week, I was working on my full review of this, and kind of set it aside to do these best of videos because it was the end of the year. So anyway, my top recommendation of $101 to $250 is the Topping E50, which is a very nice little DAC that costs $199. It has exceptional clarity and detail, excellent separation of instruments, a very wide sound stage. It is balanced. My only issue is the balanced outputs on the back are 1/4 inch, which isn't standard, but it's too small to use full-size XLRs. Maybe 4.4 millimeter Pentacon would have been a better option. But anyway, besides from that, it's just a really, really high quality DAC. Probably maybe 10 years ago, you would have had to spend $1,000 for a DAC of this quality. That's $199 for the Topping E50. A couple of honorable mentions. I'm going to give it to the Topping E32, the second version of it. It's not quite as good. It's not balanced, but at $149, it's a excellent deal in my opinion. I haven't actually reviewed the second version of that, but I did review the original version. And then an honorable mention to the Topping D50S. Little more expensive, and part of that because it has the enclosure, the chassis is carved or machined out of a solid block of aluminum. I think that's the biggest part of the price difference. Otherwise sound-wise, I think it's similar to the E50, but it does cost $50 more at $249. And then I want to give an honorable mention also to the FiiO Zen DAC 2. That goes for $199, and it's not only an excellent DAC, but it also has a very good headphone amp in it. It doesn't, as far as the DAC's concerned, I don't think it quite measures up to the Toppings, but it is a little bit warmer, and some people will prefer that. And like I said, it does have a pretty good headphone amp in it that'll power anything up to it does a good job with the Hifiman Sandara even. So even medium, hard to drive, planar headphones, it has enough power. I'm going to jump up now to the 251 to 500 category. And my first pick in that is actually a DAC amp combination. That's a Hifiman EF400, and that's currently selling for $399, which is an outstanding deal in my price, or in my opinion. It's not only an excellent DAC, but it has a very good headphone amp with a ton of power. I think it's rated at like 6 watts, maybe it's 4 watts per channel, but it has enough power for any headphone. The DAC is an R2R DAC, and it's a very good R2R DAC. It's Hifiman's Himalaya DAC, and if you haven't heard R2R DACs, they're not quite as clean and focused as some of the better Delta Sigma DACs, but to me, they sound more natural and have a deeper soundstage, more three-dimensional. I really like R2R DACs. It is an older technology. My only complaint about this unit is, as an amp, it has no analog inputs, and as a DAC, it only has one input, one digital input, and that's USB. I really wish it had a coaxial and optical input, or at least one of them. But besides from that, excellent DAC and excellent headphone for $399. I want to give an honorable mention in this category to the FiiO Zen 1. A really, really good DAC at $350. It's very small. It's like the same size and shape as the FiiO Zen DAC, but it's an excellent standalone DAC, and at $350, I don't think you could beat it as far as quality at that price. Okay, I'm going to jump up to the 501 to 1000 category, and unfortunately, my number one pick is no longer in production. My number one pick in this category would be the Topping D70S MQA version, and I believe that sold at $750, but unfortunately, that used what is it? I can't think of it right now. It didn't use the ESS chips. It used the other one. I can't think of it. Well, whatever. I'll skip by that. Anyway, the D70, I compared it directly to the more expensive flagship topping DAC, the D90, and actually preferred the D70S. It had a warmer, richer sound to it, where the D90 has excellent clarity and detail, but can sound a little bit on the dry, sterile side. So my favorite was the D70. There's still some used ones around. If you can find one at a reasonable price, jump on it. That is an excellent DAC. So because that is no longer available, my first pick is actually going to be an amp DAC combination, and that's the FiiO K9 Pro ESS version, and that currently sells for $850. And I actually compared the FiiO K9 Pro directly to the topping D70, and they have a very similar sound in the DAC. So that's why I'm picking it above even standalone DACs in this 501 to 1000 category. So it's an excellent DAC, really, really good DAC, and it has a nice warm, rich sound to it, but yet very detailed, and it has a very good headphone amp thrown in. The headphone amp, I think, is only about 2 watts per channel, but it's good enough. It's enough for anything up to medium hard to drive planar magnetic headphones. It also works very well with high impedance headphones like the 300 ohm ZMF Atrium. So that's my number one pick, the FiiO K9 Pro ESS version. And then I'm going to give an honorable mention to the topping D90 SE, which sells for $799. That is the top of the line topping DAC, and it is a very good DAC. It's exceptionally clean, exceptional detail. Like I said earlier, though, my only problem with it is it's a little bit on the dry, sterile side as far as sound. I actually preferred the D70 that has a little bit warmer, richer sound, but pretty much equal amount of detail. I'm also going to give an honorable mention to the iFi Audio Neo IDSD, which sells for $799. Excellent clarity and detail. It actually has better than average depth and more of a three-dimensional sound, I think, than even the toppings. The only flaw it had is the sound sounded just slightly less weight to it, less, I'm kind of stumbling here again, just a little less weight and density to the sound than some of the others, but excellent clarity and detail, and I actually really enjoyed my time with that DAC. I'm also going to give an honorable mention to a very nice combination amp DAC in this price category. The DAC doesn't quite measure up, but it actually comes with a very good headphone amp in it, and that's the Burson Playmate 2. And what I mean by the DAC not measuring up, I mean it's not quite on the level of the standalone DACs in this category. It's still a very good DAC and an excellent headphone amp, and at only $544, it's actually a bargain in my opinion. Jumping up to the $1,001 to $2,000 category, my number one pick is the Denafrips Pontus 2. There is a newer version this year. I can't even think of what it's called, but I don't know how much difference there is, but I'm assuming it's probably even better. The newest version of that sells for, in US dollars, $1,842. The prices are given in Singapore dollars, that's where it's made. And you've got to be careful, because if you go to their website, it says dollars and the price seems really high, but that's actually Singapore dollars. You have to go over to the top. Up at the top, you can click over to US dollars, and it significantly drops the price. This one, it drops it from 24 something to 1842 in US dollars. Anyway, it's large, it's heavy, but it's got some like 7 or 8 inputs. Excellent quality. It is also an R2R DAC, and it's in fact the best R2R DAC I've heard. And just loved it. Problem was, it was a loaner. I had to return it. If I had the money, I would have bought it. It is that good of DAC. Want to give an honorable mention to the Audio GD R8 MK3. I reviewed and do have the MK2 version of that. And to me, the sound of it is almost identical. It's also an R2R DAC. It's almost identical in sound to the Denafrips Pontus 2. I just, after listening for hours back and forth, I finally decided that the Denafrips was just slightly cleaner and a little better focused. But they're so close, it took me hours to come up with that decision. The reason that I'm picking the Denafrips over the Audio GD, the main reason is, number one, the Audio GD is huge. The Denafrips is very large, but the Audio GD is a full 17 inches wide, I think 17.5 inches deep, and weighs almost 30 pounds. The Denafrips is almost as heavy, but it's more like 14 or 15 inches square. But anyway, the main reason I picked the Denafrips over the Audio GD is the controls are more simple on the Denafrips. The Denafrip has a separate button for each function, something like 8 or 9 buttons across the front of it, where the Audio GD only has 3 buttons to control all the functions, and it's kind of confusing. And every time I want to use them, I have to go back to their website and look at the instructions on how to do it, because it didn't actually come with instructions in the box. I also want to give an honorable mention to a very good amp DAC combination, a very good amp with a also very good DAC. The DAC just doesn't quite compete with DACs in the 1001 to 2000 range, but you're getting an excellent amp with it, and a very good buy in my opinion at $1,744. And jumping up to my last category, and then I'll get to my awards, is the over $2,000 category. And I'll be honest with you, I've only reviewed one DAC over $2,000 so far up to this point, but I do love it. It's I'm actually working on my full review of that right now, but I've had it for a few months and have done extensive listening to it, and it's in the picture behind me. It is the FiiO Pro IDSD signature version. And this DAC, which is an amp combination, it's not cheap. It sells for $3,250, but it is, in my opinion, an outstanding DAC, and has a very good headphone amp included with it. The DAC itself has the best detail and clarity of any DAC I've heard so far. Okay, I don't still have the Denafrips Pontus to compare it directly, but I do have the Audio GD R8 to compare it to. And the Denafrips I found slightly better focused and cleaner than the Audio GD. The IDSD signature here, it's a noticeable difference. It didn't take me a couple hours, it took me a couple minutes to realize this DAC is cleaner and better focused than the Audio GD R8. But this is a Delta Sigma DAC. This is not an R2. Where the Audio GD still beats us out a little bit is in the depth of the sound stage. It just has a more three-dimensional sound as an R2R DAC. But This DAC here, like I said, I haven't even done my full review yet, but it has outstanding detail and clarity, outstanding separation of instruments and imaging, and it also has several different up converting or upscaling settings, all the way up to DSD, 1024. And it also has several filter options. And this is one of the few DACs that I can actually hear the difference in the filters. The the topping DACs, as hard as I try, I don't hear the difference in the filters. And I think the reason why is because I'm almost 60 years old and I know my hearing doesn't go above 15,000 hertz. So I think with the FiiO DACs, I think the digital filters are basically affecting the frequencies above 15,000, so I'm not hearing it. The filters in this, I actually can hear the difference, and I forget what the different filters are called, but I do have a favorite, and when I do my full review of this, and I'll try to get this out next week, I'll go through it and talk about the different filters and why I like one over another. But it's really the first DAC that I hear a significant difference in the digital filters. So, and then the headphone amp part of it, it's a really good amp as long as you don't require a huge amount of power. I think it puts out about 2 watts per channel, and it's plenty for even most planar magnetic headphones. Excuse me, it might not be enough for some of the really hard to drive planar magnetics, but it's so far worked with everything I've tried. And as you can see in the picture, you can kind of see the Hifiman HE1000 SE there, and in my opinion, this is one of the best combinations I've heard. These two just synergize so well. This amp DAC brings out the detail, the instrument separation, better than any other that I've tried with the Hifiman HE1000 SE. So just an outstanding DAC with a really good amp built in. So now I'm going to get into my awards, and first I'm going to start with my most bang for the buck awards, and give me just a second. It's a cold night here in southern Missouri. I'm heating with wood and the air's dry, so please excuse me if I have to get a drink every once in a while. Anyway, my most bang for the buck awards, I divided this up into 3 categories. One is under $500, and my most bang for the buck award goes to the topping E50. At only $199, I think it's a really, really good DAC for that price. Like I said, a DAC of that quality a few years ago would have cost you $1,000. In the 500 to 1,000 category, I'm going to give my award for most bang for the buck to the FiiO K9 Pro ESS. It comes with a really nice built-in headphone amp, but in my opinion, it is my favorite DAC that I've heard under 1,000, even compared to the others. And it's an outstanding deal at that price because of it coming with a really good headphone amp, all in one unit. Okay, over 1,000, most bang for the buck, I'm going to give that to the Denafrips Pontus 2, or whatever the newest version is called. It's a Pontus 2, there's something else on the end of it, I can't remember. And that currently sells at $1,842 in US dollars. Okay, my awards for the most cleanest and most detailed DACs. And under 500, I'm going to give that once again to the topping E50. 50 to 1,000, I'm going to give that to the topping D90 SE. Just an outstandingly clean, detailed DAC, but I'm not absolutely crazy about it because it's just a little bit on the dry, sort of sterile, almost analytical sound, but you can't beat it as far as if you're looking for the ultimate in detail and clarity under 1000, you can't beat the Topping D90 SE. And then over 1000, I'm going to give it to the FiiO Pro IDSD Signature. Once again, the DAC in the picture behind me, just outstanding detail and clarity, even better than the Topping. I mean, it's 3 times the price, over 3 times the price, but it's just a better DAC all around. It actually, and I don't think I mentioned this DAC behind me, the IDSD Pro Signature, actually has a nice, warm, rich sound to it, but yet has exceptional detail, and it doesn't sound dry or sterile at all. It's actually warm and actually kind of on the bassy side. That's part of why I like it so much, because it's unusual for something to sound warm and rich and extremely detailed at the same time. A lot of times, to get that warm, rich sound, you give up a little bit of detail, but that's not the case with this DAC. Okay, so now I'm on DAC of the Year, and I'm going to break that into 2 categories. DAC of the Year under $1,000, Topping E50 at $199, outstanding deal. And not necessarily saying it's the best DAC of that price, or under 1,000, but for $199, it is just such a good DAC for that price that I'm giving it DAC of the Year under 1,000. DAC of the Year over 1,000 is going to the FiiO Pro IDSD Signature. I just love this DAC. And then I'm going to give awards for the DAC Amp Combo of the Year. And the DAC Amp Combo that I like the best under 1,000, that's once again the FiiO K9 Pro ESS version. And DAC Amp Combo of the Year over 1,000 is going to the FiiO Pro IDSD Signature. So this DAC in the photo behind me, the Pro IDSD Signature, pretty much cleaned house this year. Took best DAC over 2,000. DAC of the Year over 1,000, and DAC Amp Combo of the Year over 1,000. So that's 3 awards, and that tells you how much I like it. Like I said, I still haven't done my full review on this. I'm hoping to get that out in the next week or so. I've got one more Best of the Year video coming out. That's going to be headphone accessories. That would be like headphone cables and ear pads and stuff like that. So that one's going to be a little shorter. That's going to be, I'll try to get that out in a couple days, and then get back to my full reviews that I've got about 5 or 6 of them I need to do that I'm way over schedule on. And then also I've got a surprise headphone coming in. I got a new headphone coming. I'm not sure when, maybe a week or so. And the only hint I'm going to give you, it is the highest priced headphone I've ever reviewed up to this point. So that's coming in a week or 2, and I'll be back with my accessories video in a few days. And I guess I'm going to wrap this up. So once again, this is William from the Headphone Experience. If this video has helped you, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you're all welcome to join us at the Headphone Experience on Facebook. That is now up to 28.2 thousand members. So I hope to see you there. And once again, thanks for watching my video.